Hello and welcome to an interview with District 32, myself, Lorraine Garvey. I'm really excited to be here today with Rob Heldoorn from Aria Telco Management. How are you, Rob?
Great. Thanks for allowing me to be on today. This is brilliant.
Love it. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to ask you to introduce yourself and a little bit about your business, to let everybody know what you do and how you can help us. I think that's really important. But then what we're going to do is we're going to dive into a little bit more questioning around who's Rob, the business owner. You know, how have you survived the initial years of business and what drives you? So I'd love to just let people get a little bit more insight into Rob, the business owner. So first of all, Rob, tell us, what is Aria Telco Management? What do you do?
Look, so Aria Telco Management is essentially exactly what it sounds. It's a telecommunications management company. I've been in telco for 16, 17 years before I set it up. And the whole reason that I've structured it in the way that I have is because there was a massive gap in the telco space for clients actually being managed correctly. Everybody out there was just about sell the person the mobile phone or the phone system or the internet connection and let them deal with customer service and just move on and go and get the next sale. There was a distinct lack of actual management going on. So that's why I set the business up in the way it is. So we've got agreements with all of the big players out there, your Telstra, Optus, Vodafone, and we've also got wholesale agreements in place as well, so that we can actually offer a different range of services to our clients. But then it's about the ongoing management after that. It's not just as I said earlier, it's not just a sign you up and see you later. It's an ongoing management, ongoing relationship that we have with our clients.
So a couple of things. Thanks for that, Rob. I think it's really important to know for business owners that they can go and approach someone like yourself and can still stay with the same provider, but can generally get a much better deal.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably 70% of our clients that we bring on don't leave the provider that they're currently with. They might be with one for coverage or one for price or whatever the case may be. And we're happy to work with those providers and just make sure that the client is on the best deal for them and that they are being looked after moving forward.
And just so people can get an idea of the actual scope of clients that you work with, you'll work from the one-man band's mobile phone to are you nationally?
Yeah, we do have clients nationally. Yep. So yeah, exactly as you said. So our smallest clients have got one or two phones, just small one-man bands running around with one mobile, up to our largest clients. Our two largest clients have got between 500 and 800 services each. So and mobile phones, mix of mobiles and data, tablets, iPads, what have you. So there's a whole range in there, and pretty much everybody in between.
That's when you look at how long have you been in business, Rob?
3 years. Actually 3 years exactly today. Today is our 3-year birthday.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're now no longer a startup. I think the bank might give you money now.
3 years. 3 years is it. We made it.
Wow! Good for you.
That's awesome. We're no longer a startup.
That's brilliant. Well done.
No,
that is a phenomenal achievement. To be up and running, to have national clients, and to have you've got market share there, you're growing and you're dealing with such large clients, and that is obviously a testimony to the service that you provide. And I can vouch for that myself as one of these people who was the one-man band with the one mobile. It still helps me profusely when I don't have to stay on the phone to a teleoperator for 2 hours to fix my issues. So well done.
It's funny. So that's I've got a telemarketer, and she hates that term. She prefers appointment setter, but
yeah,
it's just But and she says to me, with the feedback that she gets from the calls that she makes and the clients that she speaks to, that she actually gets more appointments for me and more traction going down the path of we actually manage the account, so that you don't have to sit on the phone and speak to Telstra.
That's right.
More than just, yes, we can save you money, because that's
the time. It's the time. We're all time.
Exactly. It's saving people time and money in that regard, rather than just I'll slice 20, 30, 40% off your bill.
Wow. So listen, before I deep dive on you, I think that was a great intro there with your, it being your anniversary. I think that's tremendous. But before we go there, what one piece of advice would you give anybody who's looking at telecoms, either landlines, mobiles? What advice would you give somebody out there, or a new contract? What advice would you give?
Okay, we'll pick one. We'll pick a new mobile contract, for example. One of the main things that I say to people about new mobile contracts is never sign a 24-month contract on the plan itself. There's a lot of these companies that will offer 24-month contracts on the plan, and then that locks you into the plan. And if you want a phone with it as well, you've got a separate repayment contract on the phone. There's nothing wrong with the repayment contract on the phone, because that, for the most part, across these companies is interest-free. They look at the retail price, divide it by 24 months, and that's your phone repayment. And fair enough. There's absolutely no reason to lock into a contract on an actual plan itself. And to this point, or to this day, I've not seen one that actually is of value to the client over and above that same carrier's non-contracted product, because they all have non-contracted. So if you do have somebody that is trying to sell you on a contracted phone plan, ask them to see the equivalent non-contracted plan and then compare the two for yourself.
Wow. Okay.
And that will save you a lot of time and heartache as well.
Wow. Thank you very much for that, Rob. That will help everybody. So let's look at you yourself. So 3 years, right? Anniversary today. Are you celebrating, by the way?
Yeah, well, we're in lockdown, so we can't go out and celebrate. But I might have a bike tonight to celebrate.
A standalone tinny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So 3 years. What's contributed mostly to? What's contributed to your growth in the first 3 years? What have been the really important aspects of your growth?
Well, look, I mean, first and foremost, District 32. You guys are at the top of the tree with that. The awareness and the value that I've gotten out of District 32 as a startup business owner, that I'd never owned a business before. So coming in and receiving the education and talking to other business owners as a platform has been amazing. So that's contributed massively. The other thing that, and I've probably only started really doing this a lot in the last 12 months, is outsourcing. I was one of those business owners, which a lot of people are, that you feel like you have to do everything, and you work stupid hours and you're doing your books and you're doing this and doing that. But bringing on a bookkeeper, an accountant, a virtual assistant, having Annette being my customer service appointment setting person that I mentioned before, outsourcing in that way, my social media, all of that has freed up so much of my time to focus on actually growing the business. And that in itself has been massive for me. So I know it was difficult for me to let go, but ever since I've actually done that, it's just given me so much more scope to work on the business, and that's where a lot of that growth has come from.
What you've achieved so far, it's just phenomenal, Rob. You hear people in business way longer than yourself who haven't outsourced anything. But what is it that's saying? They say let go to grow. You have to let go. It's
exactly right, and it's the trap. I think in a lot of that is, okay, you give off your social media management, let's say, to somebody to manage that for you, and you look at it and go, okay, well, I've got all this spare time now, and a lot of people will go and play golf in that spare time, or go and they're not actually putting that time back into the business. So there is still that level of you need to do the work. There's no point freeing up all this time and outsourcing everything if you just want to go and sit on the couch and watch Netflix. You need to actually use that time to put back into the business and do the work.
Assuming that people would want to grow the business.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Assuming they want to grow. If you're happy and you've got it to where you're happy and you don't want to grow anymore, then
go play golf. Yeah.
Go play golf. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Rob, what inspires you? What inspires you? What made you go into business, and then what inspired you to keep going?
Well, what made me go into business, there was a couple of different things. A lot of people do know that the company's named after my daughter. So the original idea was to grow a business to support me and my daughter, and be able to pay for our lives, essentially. And so that was a massive starting point, and that was a massive inspiration for me to grow the business. But the other side of that, the professional side of that, was what I mentioned earlier around just the distinct lack of actual management out there in the market. It was, I worked for other companies in the past where everything was just about going and getting the sales and forget the customer, get them to call customer service if they call you with an issue. And that never felt right to me. It always felt like we should be building a relationship for the long term, not just looking at the short term metrics of a sales target. So that was a massive driver for me in growing the business, to the point where I refused to have a sales target in my business whatsoever. No monthly, quarterly, annual, nothing. Because I wanted to make sure that the experience that my customers were having wasn't based on any sort of arbitrary figures or metrics or targets that I'd put on myself. It was all about what was best for them, not what was best for me in the short term.
Wow, and it's obviously paid off.
It has, and that's why we've had very few clients that have actually left it all, and we keep getting referrals from our existing client base, because we take the time to look after them and make sure that they're happy. And I spend probably 15, maybe 20% of my week working on new business, and the rest of the time is working between networking with District 32 and looking after my existing client base. That's the focus of the business. It's not, I've said a number of times, if all I was worried about was going out and building the biggest business I could and getting as many sales on board, the company would be probably 5 to 10 times the size of what it is even within that 3 years, if that was all I was worried about. But that's the last thing I'm looking at. Wow.
There's definitely a lot of science and theory around going the extra mile. Going the extra mile in every interaction, every conversation and that can be suppliers, customers, business partners, wherever it is. But I'm guessing that's one of your core philosophies then under that customer service is going the extra mile.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one of my clients that was looking at rolling out a mobile fleet of 50 new handsets to a bunch of their different sites, and they have 30 sites around Perth. And instead of me just saying to them, look, here's the SIM card, put it in the phone and send it to each person at each site, I actually got in the car myself and hand delivered to 30 different sites around Perth these handsets, and made sure that everything was set up for the customers and it was working and they were happy and the users were able to get on board. And that's just, if I had said that that's what I wanted to do when I was working for one of these other companies that was just so short-term focused, I would have been laughed out of the room. Because it's not doing anything towards the short-term metrics of hitting that sales target. But for me, it was the relationship with the client in the long term is far more important than worrying about a sales target. So if I have to take a day and a half to make sure that a client is looked after and happy, then that's what I'm going to do.
So what's next for you then, Rob? What's next for Aria Telco Management?
Well, it's funny. I'm actually looking at that at the moment. Is to the new financial year and the going into the 4th year of business, where we are going to be looking at going. And I'm in the not too distant future going to be putting on probably a sales rep and an account manager, and potentially looking at expanding into the Sydney market as well. I do already have clients over there, but actually putting somebody on the ground in Sydney to run over there.
That's just phenomenal. That's some good planning there on the happy new financial year, happy anniversary. Here's what we're doing.
There's a lot that's going into it, and this is the thing. I've got a whiteboard over here just with a mountain of different ideas and the things that I want to accomplish for this year, and that's on there. So in the short term, Perth is still absolutely the focus, and we'll definitely be bringing somebody on in the next probably 2 to 3 months in those roles, and then from there we'll look at moving into the other states as well.
That's brilliant. Business is addictive, isn't it? It's addictive.
It is. Absolutely. So, when you love what you do, it's easy. It doesn't it's hard work. There's a lot of hard work, but it's not hard to get out of bed in the morning and get excited about what's coming up for that day.
So just last but not least then, Rob, you're 3 today. We're into your 4th year. You can now say you're in 4th year, right? Even if it was one day. What advice would you give for business owners going into business today? What's the one big thing you would tell them?
For a startup? Number one, make sure that you're doing something that you actually enjoy doing. If you're going into a business just because you think you're going to be able to make millions of dollars and you don't actually have any level of passion or care about that business, don't do it. because you'll burn yourself out so quickly, it's just not going to be worth it. So make sure that you actually care about what you're doing and you do have a love for that business. And number 2 is do the work. Don't feel like, I was talking about outsourcing earlier, but that's, 2.5, 3 years having been in business at that point. Doing the work there's no substitute for it. Get in there, do the hours. Yes, it's going to be long hours to grow a business if you want to be successful and you want to grow it to any sort of scale. But there is really no substitute for it. And I guess the third thing is educate yourself. It's something else that I'm a big believer in. I'm always reading business books and such, and I actually have one here that I was gifted recently.
Love it.
You recognise that one? So,
yep.
Yeah, look, it's the education process. It's doing the work, but just make sure that it's actually something you care about and actually something that you enjoy doing. Because if it's not, it's only going to go so far if all you're doing it for is chasing the dollars.
Rob, thank you very much. And just for anyone listening, Rob is, he's available. You can contact him at Aria Telco Management for any needs with regards to anything telco, whether that's hardware, software, or your communication channels, and for any provider we can touch base with you.
Yeah, look, for the main ones, there's some of the smaller ones we don't have partnership agreements with, but for your main players out there, we absolutely do.
Rob, thank you very much. Love your support, love what you do, and happy anniversary.
Thanks a lot. Great to talk to you.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.